5 feet 8 inches in the NBA isn't just small, it's nearly impossible. Players that size aren't supposed to make rosters, let alone drop dimes on 7-footers, but Yuki Kawamura didn't get the memo. The rookie point guard from Japan is doing more than surviving. He's straight up cooking defenders, breaking ankles, and turning heads across the league. One viral highlight, one breakout game, and suddenly, everyone's asking the same question. How is a player this small making such a big impact? The answer is deeper than hustle or hype. So let's break down how Kawamura is rewriting the rules. Kawamura's journey to the NBA wasn't just unlikely, it was almost unthinkable. Coming out of Yamaguchi, Japan, he didn't have the height or the typical basketball pedigree. What he did have? Elite vision, absurd speed, and a basketball IQ that made defenders look lost. He dominated Japan's B.League with the Yokohama B Corsairs, leading the league in assists and earning back-to-back Best 5 honors. Still, nobody expected him to land on an NBA roster, not because of talent, but because of perception. But then came the 2023 FIBA World Cup. Kawamura put on a show against top-level competition. His pace, his patience, and his ability to read defenses in real time turned heads on a global stage. He wasn't just running plays, he was orchestrating chaos. Japan's upset win over Finland, Kawamura played a key role. Their historic qualification for the 2024 Paris Olympics, he helped lead that charge. By the time the Olympics rolled around, Kawamura was a known name among international scouts. And once the Memphis Grizzlies saw what he could do in training camp, they offered him a two-way contract, giving him limited NBA minutes and a chance to develop with their G-League team, the Memphis Hustle. It wasn't a dream deal, it was a foot in the door. But here's where the story flips. Instead of getting buried on the bench like most two-way players, Kawamura made the most of every second. In the G-League, he was a problem. Over 20 games, he averaged 12.4 points, 7.8 assists, and shot over 40% from three. Coaches started to notice. Teammates started to trust him. And when injuries hit the Grizzlies late in the season, Kawamura got his shot. That's when everything changed. Because instead of just holding his own, Kawamura lit up defenses. He delivered flashy no-look passes, controlled the tempo, and ran pick and rolls like a seasoned vet. Not a rookie giving up a foot to almost everyone on the floor. On April 13th against the Mavericks, he played nearly 30 minutes, dropped 12 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, dished out 5 assists, and helped the Grizzlies pull off a comeback win. Suddenly, Kawamura wasn't just a novelty, he was a real contributor. And for a player once considered too small for pro basketball, that's not just progress, that's history. But how exactly is he doing this? What makes him so effective when everything, from height to defensive matchups, should be working against him? So, how does a 5'8" guard not just survive, but thrive in a league built for giants? Let's start with the basics. Kawamura's game isn't about height. It's about speed, timing, and control. He's not trying to outmuscle anyone. He's outthinking and outmaneuvering them. Watch him operate off the pick and roll, and you'll see a masterclass in split-second decision-making. Whether it's rejecting the screen, threading a bounce pass through traffic, or pulling up for a mid-range floater, Kawamura processes the floor like he's 2 steps ahead. In fact, his pick-and-roll efficiency has quietly become one of the most effective weapons in the Grizzlies' offense. According to advanced tracking stats from Synergy, Kawamura is generating nearly 1.08 points per possession when he's the ball handler in pick-and-roll situations, ranking in the 85th percentile among guards. That's not just good, that's elite. But it's how he gets those points that tells the story. Then there's the passing. Kawamura's vision is borderline surgical. He doesn't just hit open teammates, he creates the openings. One look off here, one hesitation there, and suddenly a defender is leaning the wrong way. That gives Kawamura just enough room to zip a pass into the corner for a wide open 3 or drop a dime to a cutting big. It's that kind of manipulative playmaking, similar to what we've seen from guards like Tyrese Halliburton or even prime Steve Nash, that makes him so unpredictable. And unpredictability is Kawamura's biggest weapon, because defenders can't get comfortable. He'll switch gears mid-drive. He'll stop on a dime and launch a fadeaway. He'll reset the offense 3 times in one possession, forcing the defense to react over and over until it breaks. Every movement is intentional. Every fake has a purpose. And let's talk about tempo, because this is where Kawamura is truly special. He controls pace like a veteran. Most rookies, especially undersized ones, rush their decisions under pressure. Kawamura doesn't. He plays like the floor is his, like everyone else is just trying to keep up. When he's on the court, you can actually see the rhythm shift. He speeds it up, slows it down, lulls the defense, then strikes. It's the kind of composure you can't teach, and it's rare, even among NBA starters. Now, all of this would mean nothing without results. So let's look at the numbers. Since being called up, Kawamura is averaging 9.2 points, 5.4 assists, and 2.1 turnovers per game in limited minutes, on 48% shooting from the field and 41% from deep. Those shooting splits alone are eye-opening. But when you factor in his usage rate and how efficient he is per possession, the analytics start to paint a very clear picture. Kawamura isn't just making the most of his opportunity, he's forcing his coaches to keep him on the floor. And he's doing it against real NBA talent. Look at his performance against the Mavericks, where he was matched up with Derek Lively on switches and still found ways to finish over the top. Or his game against the Kings, where he shredded Davion Mitchell, one of the better on-ball defenders in the league, off the dribble for back-to-back buckets. These aren't garbage time highlights, these are game-shifting plays. Still, not everyone's convinced. Some critics say he won't last, that once teams scout him fully, they'll take away his space, that eventually the size mismatch will catch up. But here's the thing, people have been saying that about Kawamura his entire career, and every time he's found a way to adapt. In Japan, they said he was too small for the B.League. He became an MVP candidate. In FIBA, they said he'd get exposed against elite international talent. He helped Japan qualify for the Olympics. And now in the NBA, they're saying he can't possibly sustain this level. But Kawamura is not here to prove people wrong. He's here to prove he belongs. And if you're still wondering whether this is a fluke, stick around. Because in the final stretch of this video, we're looking at what's next, and whether Yuki Kawamura could actually change how teams evaluate undersized guards forever. So now the question isn't if Kawamura belongs in the NBA. The question is, what happens if more players like him start breaking through? Because Kawamura's rise isn't just a personal triumph, it's a disruption, a challenge to the NBA's long-standing assumptions about size, fit, and what a prototypical point guard looks like. If a 5'8" playmaker from Yamaguchi can carve out minutes, create offense, and shift momentum at the highest level, then scouting departments may have to rethink how they measure upside. Let's put that into perspective. Over the past decade, the average NBA draft has featured 0 players under 5 feet 10 inches. Scouts look for wingspan, vertical leap, and physical tools, and they often overlook basketball functionality. Kawamura forces that conversation. Because when you take raw measurables out of the equation and focus on impact per touch, decision speed, floor spacing, and on-court efficiency, suddenly a player like Kawamura doesn't just fit, he thrives. And it's not just theory. According to Second Spectrum data, Kawamura ranks in the top 10% of all NBA guards in expected points added per touch, meaning that every time he gets the ball, the offense statistically becomes more dangerous. That's a metric teams can't ignore. And maybe most importantly, his presence unlocks other players. Bigs like Jaren Jackson Jr. benefit from his timing. Shooters get cleaner looks. The bench unit has a real engine. Kawamura doesn't dominate the ball, he enhances it, which is exactly what modern teams need from a backup guard, or even a low-usage starter in the right system. Kawamura is still adjusting to NBA spacing, to elite-level speed, to nightly matchups with guards who outweigh him by 30 pounds. And yet, he's already making an impact. So imagine what he looks like with a full offseason of strength training, with defensive reps, with a real expanded role. Imagine a version of Kawamura who's no longer the underdog, but the blueprint. That's the long-term implication here. Kawamura's success could crack open the door for a new wave of international guards, not just from Japan, but from everywhere the NBA doesn't usually scout for undersized playmakers. And if front offices are watching closely, and you can bet they are, this could change how talent is identified, developed, and valued across the globe. So next time you see Kawamura check into a game, don't just think of it as a feel-good story. Think of it as a statement, a message to every overlooked player out there. Basketball IQ still matters, skill still wins, and sometimes the smallest guy on the floor is the one you least want to guard. Now the only question is, how far can he go? Because if this is just Chapter 1, Chapter 2 might rewrite the rules. If you've made it this far, you already know Kawamura's story isn't just inspiring, it's evolving in real time. So hit that like button if you're rooting for the underdog, subscribe if you want more deep dives like this, and drop a comment. What do you think Kawamura's ceiling is? Is he the next international star or a one-season wonder? We'll be watching closely because this is just the beginning.